Okay, thank you for stopping in again at Nine World Chronicles. And today I'm talking a little bit more about Arensnuohis, who was a Kemetic or Nubian netter, lion-headed netter, who, through a little bit more research, I found a little bit more about this particular god. And the first thing was this name for him, which was the beautiful Medjay. And of course, the Medjay are known as a classification of warriors or soldiers from Nubia who became the police force for a lot of Kemet. They were the primary protectors for the Nasut, and you even see it in like the mummy movies. They show the Medjay. And they were renowned for their ability, first their military ability, but also for their tracking ability, which is what brings us to the story, the myth of the wandering goddess. And I just dropped this video about the myth of the wandering goddess just the other day. A beautiful story that is really about cosmology and explains a lot of festivals that occur and when and why those festivals. Of course, the long and short is that this goddess, who was the eye of Ra, ventures out and ends up in Nubia because she's upset. And they send out, it's either a combination of Shu and Osiris or Jehudi, that go out to go bring her back at Ra's behest. And they find the goddess and they convince her through letting her know that there will be all these festivals and how much people would love her and how much joy she would bring coming back. And this is how the myth goes. And she, of course, does come back. There, of course, are festivals for her on their entire route back into the folds of the empire. It's a great story, which ties into cosmological events, looking at, the disappearance of the Sirius star and then it returning, that ushering in the time of the new year, where, of course, there would be, celebrations. Also linking it to seasonal changes in which there is, very similar to what we see in other myths, where a specific deity goes away. It is a time of cold, and the river is at its lowest level, and then, of course, that deity associated with weather comes back, and that's a time of renewal. And for that, we would typically have springtime or bounty festivals. So, a very similar stories. Now, what Arensnuohis plays as a role in here is he really represents Nubia. He is a Nubian entity that becomes part of the larger Kemetic pantheon, and that's the role that he plays. But his association to both the Medjay and the story really get highlighted in a few passages if we view that these deities were manifesting other strengths. And if he's placed in this role as the one who is hunting for her or searching for the goddess, it makes sense, because if this was the traditional, the physical world, the king would send out the Medjay to bring someone back, to find someone, because they were the best trackers. And so they do this. So this makes sense of him being the beautiful Medjay, and he would be tasked with at least going out to find, in this telling of the story, it is Tefnut, who is the goddess who has gone to Nubia. And so, seeing his role, he becomes obviously the hero in the story. He becomes, or at least a partial, which is important because he is known in his own mythology as the Great Companion, right? And in that role, as the Great Companion, he was linked to Tefnut and also to Isis or Osset, and would have been ideal for a protector who was escorting the Eye of Ra, or the daughter of the Nasut, back to the kingdom. He was the good companion. He offered, obviously, companionship, but also was there as protector, right? And which is a role that the Medjay played. And it gets more interesting because there's also a pyramid text which seems to back all this up. It facilitates all this, in which he's evoked. Now, I believe this comes from, the papyrus text. It is passages 182 to 189. And the goal, again, is to find the means to obtain favor for the universe. This is the first part. And for the inhabited world. Now, again, we're looking at the cosmological effects of this goddess or netter having left the kingdom. And their goal is to bring her back. So the means to obtain favor for the universe, bringing her back, and for the inhabited world. Heaven has become a dancing place for you. Again, we had mentioned that they told her there would be great festivals at the Temple of Philae. There was already a festival that still goes on, or still is held in honor of her. But it says, to finish it off, heaven has become a dancing place for you. Let my outspokenness not leave me, but let every tongue and language listen to me. So Arensnuohis was, of course, in this mold of talking to this Neter, this goddess, and this was not by force. He, appeals to her, desires, her wants, and convinces her to come back into the kingdom. Not so very different. I mean, we've seen the Japanese story about Soshun, who is the sun goddess, and she goes and hides because she was afraid. In her story, she's afraid. And they do the same thing, and they convince her with jewels and gifts to come back out. And again, that restores the order of cosmology. So a very interesting story. I'll look, kind of comparatively at both, but a very similar story. Obviously, we needed this goddess to come back because this was going to help keep the universe in balance and life for common people as well. We send out, obviously, the best would be Arensnuohis, who was of the Medjay, who were known for being great trackers, especially throughout the desert. He goes, he convinces her by invoking these beautiful words of this, what is now a spell, that there will be great feasts and great parties, and that heaven will become a dancing place for you. And that, of course, facilitated the festivals that we would see manifest from that. So a great story, a little bit more about this deity here, who is now, to me, known as the beautiful Medjay. A great name, talking about both the culture of Kemet and how the proximity of the culture in relationship with Nubia and the influences went back and forth. And of course, great information about the Medjay. Sabati and I talk extensively about the Medjay for a long period of this channel. So if you want to find more information about the Medjay, I'll try and slip a couple of links inside the description note on this. As always, I ask, if you have something that you want to add to the story, please do so in the comment section. And please, for my sake, hit that like and subscribe, and click the notification bell if you enjoy the videos. That way you always know when new videos are in the loop.